Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to this morning's bonus stream from the Talking Town team. It is fixture release day, of course, and that's why we are here. Very excited to find out who we are playing on the opening day, our first home game, first game when fans might be allowed back in, maybe Boxing Day, New Year's Day, and of course, last day of the season. Although it's crazy, I read last night that a team got knocked out of the Europa League despite the Europa League still going on. I just find that absolutely... So one team's already out of the competition and it hasn't even finished. Brilliant. Anyhow, welcome. If you haven't yet done so, please hit the subscribe button. Help us to continue to grow and bring you some fantastic content. And we really have brought you some fantastic stuff recently. And of course, as always, guys, you can get involved yourselves. We have a live chat room, if you want to call it that. Leave a comment and it will come live on the screen. And if you want to get involved and come onto camera like this and look as fabulous as me this morning, then of course you can do so as well. Just ask for the link in the chat and I will provide you with one. I am joined this morning by two very esteemed people in the world of football. Of course, it's our Northern correspondent, Amy Downs, joining us, and our EFL pundit, Gabriel Sutton, who's been on the podcast before. You can look back over our archive and find that podcast. He has some very interesting things to say regarding Ipswich Town. Bradley Hembrew kicking us off with Ipswich away to Sunderland first game. Does Bradley know something that we do not know? Who should I bring in first? I'll tell you what, I'll bring in the town correspondent first. I'll bring in our northern lass. She knows her onions. It's Amy Downs. How you doing?
All right, thank you. Thank you for the amazing introduction. That's no problem. That was very generous of you.
No problem. Well, no problem at all. You do know your onions. How are things up north?
They're not bad, a bit grey and grizzly today, but they were lovely and sunny yesterday. Hence the slight sunburn from sitting in the beer garden in the afternoon with my little boy. So not sure I looked like the most appropriate parenting yesterday, but we went and got a nice rug in the beer garden of my favourite pub and sat and had a couple of glasses of wine. So
that is the way to do it. Beautiful stuff. And obviously, notoriously, the first day of the season is always beautifully sunny. Was that the case last year at Burton? I can't quite remember. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, I think you're right. It was just it was an all-round nice start to the season, wasn't it? It was a good result there, and we were like, oh yeah, 100 goals, 100 games, 100 points. You know, we're on the way to celebrating winning the league already, weren't we, at Burton? I think.
We potentially were. Yeah, I can see Gabriel in the blue room laughing with that comment, and I'll bring you in very shortly, Gabriel. But first 5 games last year was obviously Burton and Sunderland. First 2 games rather. 4 points were picked up from that. 11 points in total from the first 5. Do you think that's a realistic return this year?
To be honest, it was what. Does it sound arrogant to say it was what I was expecting? And I was just like, yeah, it's fine. You know, it was almost like last season was just par for the course. We needed to get over and done with so we could get back in the championship again. And it was just like, I mean, it just felt like everything was clicking, I think, at that point.
Yeah, it was. And we were firing on all cylinders. And there seems to be 2 sort of arguments this year. And I'm going to ask Gabriel this in a second. Get the big teams out of the way nice and early without any fans, so where it's more like a training game and your superior quality should come out, or save the big games for the fans and the big occasion and the noise and the buzz. Which camp do you sit in?
Oh gosh, good question. To be honest with you, the thing that will bother me when I look at the fixtures is seeing, hopefully, the northern ones later on in the season. So I'm more like the northern away games, so I'm more likely to be able to go. That's the thing that bothers me. But it is a good question. Probably we want the bigger teams early on, don't we? Before people have, you know, settled down and worked out their funks and fixed them. I think definitely you want the bigger games earlier on. But then we're not going to be match fit, so maybe we want to wait until we're in a better position to play them.
Ipswich Town. It could be any number of things. Daniel B says Ipswich versus Northampton. That's his early shout. The Cruncher says he's on the bench today. You're not on the bench, Rich. You've just been dropped. Full stop.
Who
do you want first game?
Like I say, what I would like is one of the Southern away games that I can't get to, so that it
Okay.
won't matter that I'm not there. I don't know. I really do. I think you want some of the less exciting games early on because we're not going to be there. I think, and that sounds awful because it's really arrogant to say, "Oh yeah, this is a not bothered about playing whoever."
Not
But no.
arrogant, just just a town fan. So we are the best. Gabriel Sutton, in you come, my friend. How are we doing this morning, Gabriel?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, Martin. How are you keeping?
Very well, thank you. Sorry to keep you in the blue room there for a minute or two longer than I anticipated. Thank you for joining us this morning. Obviously, we've been speaking all through the summer in regards to Ipswich Town. Just on that question I asked Amy, where would you sit as somebody looking in as a neutral? Do you want the big games played in front of the big crowds with the roar and the buzz? Or do you think clubs like Ipswich Town, particularly who struggled last season against top six opposition, should maybe try and get those big games behind closed doors where it's more like a training match and it's a 11v11 quality versus quality, and hopefully yours is better?
Well, you say the big games are going to have a roar and a buzz. I think the players behind closed doors have got to create that roar and buzz first and foremost, because as much as Town fans have been very loyal over a difficult last few years, it's very difficult, I'd imagine, to be enthusiastic if you're kind of we're outside the top six going into the back end of the season. So I think that's probably a big factor. I don't place too much emphasis on fixtures. I think you can get, okay, sometimes you can get, a tough bunch of fixtures, but then if you win them, then that puts you in a great position if you beat some of the top teams, and then you could lose to some of the bottom teams, and then that would be a massive disadvantage. So it's not something that I tend to place too much importance on. I can see why fans would want to be there for maybe the quote unquote bigger games.
Absolutely. And I'm just looking across from last season, and 100% record against Burton and Tranmere. That's not good enough from Ipswich Town, right? The only two teams on that list is Burton and Tranmere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was quite an alarming drop off, really, wasn't it? Because you were first in early October, and then between then and March, you dropped down to 11. So, a lot of question marks there, and it seems like Paul Lambert's changed a lot of the formations, the tactics, the personnel. Nothing's really stuck for him. So it would have been great if he'd been able to keep more of a settled side, because I think that's been quite an issue for you under his reign.
Yeah, and it really has done. Yeah, we spoke last night, obviously, ready for your piece coming out early next week, I believe. If you don't know Gabriel, his Twitter handle is in the description of this video. Jump there. He does some wonderful written stuff for the EFL, for Bet Victor and other sites, I believe. Is that correct, Gabriel?
Yeah, that's correct.
It is. Talk to me about Wigan, because I'm seeing some rumours that Wigan are first up. Whether that's true or not, they will be on the fixtures at some point.
I think everyone's first up, haven't they?
Yeah. Talk to me about Wigan. What do you expect from them this year?
I don't know, is the honest answer. They're
Fair enough.
They're in administration, so I think that's kind of they're facing off-field battles more than on-field battles, a little bit like Bolton just down the road from them last summer. They've obviously had to sell their key players in Anthony Robinson and Joe Williams and Keith Moore. I imagine more players will go out the door, which is a shame because they're a fantastic championship side in the second half of last season. But I don't know what sort of squad they're going to have next season. I imagine it's going to involve a lot of youth teamers. So I think there's a lot of concerns there.
Okay, right. I'll be bringing Amy in very shortly. So whatever you're making there, Amy, it looks rather delicious. But I will call you back in a second because we have the fixtures. They have been announced. I will try and bring them onto the screen, but I can't actually promise that I can do that. But I can announce that it is Wigan at home, first game of the season, Gabriel. That rumour that's been circulating the last 5 minutes was true. It's a home game. Obviously, it won't be, we would have thought, played with the crowd, September the 12th. We're anticipating crowds back in October, right? Early October.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, I think, you don't know what sort of. I think Wigan, you'd imagine, will have pretty much a team of teenagers there. I imagine they've been in administration. They'll have to have sold all their senior players, and I don't know when they're going to find a buyer. I think it's a disgrace, really, that it's been allowed to get to this situation. I think there's a lot of question marks over the EFL for allowing the owners that have come in for Wigan a month or two ago to actually, or a few months ago, to come in. So massive problems there. But I think, I suppose, from Ipswich's point of view, if you're looking at it selfishly, then I think it's a good opportunity for them to start, with 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking further afield, the first home game in October is the 10th against Charlton. So that you would expect, Amy, is our first home game back as a crowd, or certainly a limited crowd. But October the 10th, Charlton at home, it's a good game to come back to, right?
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be a bit of history between the clubs. Okay, I think it's history because of Matty Holland and
playoffs, Clapham goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the days of playing them in the Premier League. So it's another big club, like one of the country's big clubs, isn't it? So that'll be exciting. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Be really interested to see how many people are allowed to go.
Any news on that, Gabriel?
I don't know. No, I mean, I think in non-league, there's fans allowed back in at like 15% capacity from, I think, this Saturday. So that's something to watch out for. But I don't know what the news is going to be in terms of the EFL, what the percentage of fans are allowed back in.
Looking at our fixtures further afield, Amy, the notoriously, a famous Boxing Day game is Northampton at home. It's a good game to have at home on Boxing Day. That'll be nice. Hopefully by Christmas we're looking at more increased crowds. What's your most local game?
Just trying to work it out myself, actually, because there's not really any left in Yorkshire, is there? There's Donny, so Doncaster away is probably my closest. Fleetwood away, January the 2nd. I reckon that is my first. I'm meant to be in Cornwall for New Year's Eve. That'll be a rush to get home and up north for that.
Oh, don't you start them off on Twitter, Amy? You'll start them off on Twitter. AFC Wimbledon away on the 29th, the New Year's fixture. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. So we start at Wigan. So our first 5 games are Wigan, Bristol Rovers, Rochdale, MK Dons and Charlton. If I had to push you both, then I'll come to Amy first. If I had to push you both on a points return, last year we had 11 points from the first 5 games. Where would you sit this year on those first 5? Amy?
Like 3.
3? What? Wigan, Bristol Rovers, Rochdale, MK. Obviously, Bristol Rovers will be familiar with.
I would go with a couple of wins and a couple of draws, maybe. So what's that? 8?
8. Okay, Gabriel, what's your verdict on those first 5 games? Some tough.
Well, I think I'd expect you to beat Wigan and probably Rochdale. Maybe looking at about a draw at Bristol Rovers and MK, and then his next one, Charlton. I think you could get 11 points from that game, I have to say. Not necessarily, mainly just because of the strength of opposition you'll be facing. I think it's, I don't want to say an easy first 5 games, but a similar opening sequence to what you had maybe last season when you
and I think if a manager's under fire, that those are the first 5 games you would have ideally gone for, because outside, I mean, if you're looking at it, Wigan are obviously in a bit of free fall, as you've already covered for us in really good depth there, Gabriel. Bristol Rovers, by that point, that's our second game against them, having drawn them in the Carabao Cup, I believe, in the 5th of September. Rochdale, MK Dons, Charlton there. I mean, Charlton for me poses the biggest threat out of those first 5. And I'll say that, and I'll probably have egg on my face. But if you look at the fixtures, Charlton coming down, signing a few players despite the embargo. Don't know how that quite works, but they have been. Even Gabriel's shaking his head. He's not quite sure how that works by the looks of it either. It's one of those tricky ones. MK Dons, we should be beating. So I'm going to say 3, 6, 9, 12. I'm going to say 13.3, 6, 9, 12. 13 points. 13 points. Give me 13 points from those first 5, Amy. 13 points. What do you think?
Very generous.
Well, I think Charlton are posed the biggest threat, but
yeah, but also I feel like we'll probably lift our game for them because that is a big game. It's going to be the first home game. It's going to be, that's going to be special. I can see us pulling it out of the bag for that, but being awful for every other. James, don't take my can't thank you, darling. I can see us being like awful for the rest of them. I honestly, I don't know, and I know I'm supposed to be coming on to give my opinion, but I just don't know what to expect this year.
yeah, no, well, and that's the thing. We're still building that. We spoke about last night, didn't we, Gabriel, about what to expect from Town this year. And what are you looking in? Good morning, baby James. What do you expect from Ipswich this year? What are you looking for as one of the EFL's pundits?
Well, I think what I'll mainly be looking for is a bit of stability on the field, because I think really the ownership situation is a no-go. We know that fans aren't keen on Marcus Evans. We know that Marcus Evans isn't keen on selling. So I think that's almost not worth kind of bothering ourselves with to some extent. So I think really, can Paul Lambert sort of build a team that can be a bit more tactically consistent, I suppose, because he's changed a lot, as I've alluded to earlier. That's going to be really interesting. I think I'll be really interested to see what the attacking setup is. We spoke last night about the possibility of Hawkins maybe bringing a bit more out of Cage and Jackson. That's something that I'd like to see. I think the game will be a top 6 finish. Will they get it? I'm not quite sure.
Okay, not quite sure we'll finish in the top 6.
Not quite sure if you'll finish in the top 6 or where.
That's a claim. That's a claim. I love it. No, I love it. I love it. I love that sort of honesty from our guests. We have one of our watchers, Daniel, say January looks quite tough. So looking at January, we've got Fleetwood away, Swindon at home, Burton away, Peterborough at home, Sunderland at home, and Crewe away. Do you agree with Daniel that that's fairly tough, Amy?
Big games, isn't it? Sorry, baby James in the background. Big games, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. That's the point. I'd be feeling nervous, especially as that was where we sort of fell apart last year in January, didn't we? So, getting to the end of the season, getting to the middle of the season, and getting tired. And well, for us last year, it was that he messed around with the team. I genuinely think if he can find a consistent team, I think we can do anything this year. But I have no faith that he will stick with the team, if I'm honest. So yeah, definitely January's nervy. What's the end like? What's our run-in?
Yeah, right. So our run-in from April onwards is the following: Bristol Rovers at home on the Friday, and then Rochdale away on the Monday. That is the Easter bank holiday weekend, I believe. Then it's MK Dons at home, Charlton away, Northampton away, and we finish AFC Wimbledon at home. That's not a bad run-in, right, Gabriel? Because those final 2 games could be against teams who have either clinched survival or have already sadly demised.
I think that's far too early to make that kind of assertion, if I'm honest. I think we don't know what's going to happen. I think if this was kind of around March time, then yes, you could say, AFC Wimbledon might already be relegated or might have already stayed up. But I think at this stage, we look at Wickham last season when I thought they'd go down and they ended up finishing 3rd and winning promotion. So I think it's very difficult to judge what you're going to get at the back end of the season. Or a ball's been kicked.
No, that's fair enough. Am I going to get a more Homer view from Amy Downs? What do you feel of those last 5 games?
Well, I'm excited at Rochdale's over the Easter weekend because that'll be a one for me. But yeah, that feels. Am I right in remembering that last year was a bit daunting? The run-in was a bit daunting for us, so we were a bit like, well, I think we thought we'd won the league by then, didn't we? But
yeah,
that feels like, if we can keep it together, like until March, then that feels like it's you're home and dry once you get to those 5 games, doesn't it? But it sounds cocky to say that, and we know from last year that it's not as easy as saying, Rochdale, AFC Wimbledon, that they're 3 points in the bag each, because we know that's not how it works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I do think Gabriel was right. I mean, if we looked at the fixture list last year, we may have viewed someone like Southend as a tricky away tie. We didn't really see Southend's season going the way Southend went. But it did. So, Gabriel's right. There's a couple of teams that may surprise you. There's always teams that may surprise you. So, just because Northampton have come up doesn't mean they're going to be a team to be discounted early doors. I'm looking at October because obviously fans can start potentially coming back in from October. Gabriel, we've got MK Dons away, Charlton at home, Stanley at home, Doncaster away, Lincoln away, Gillingham and Crewe. Now Gillingham have signed a few players. They're a team with some serious ambition this year.
Possibly. I mean, they've lost a few of their loanees. They had a lad called Alfie Jones on loan from Southampton. You would think he's either going to be part of Southampton's team next season or playing in the Championship. That's a big loss. They also had Tom O'Connor on loan from the same club. Had Ollie Lee, I think. Was it Ollie Lee or I think it was Ollie Lee. Yeah. So a few players basically have left, along with Max Eaton, who's gone to Bristol Rovers. So a lot of key players have left. Basically, I think they're still trying to tie down Brandon Hanlon's contract as a mobile striker. They brought in some players. They brought in Zach Medley on loan from Arsenal, who's supposed to be quite a talented defender. Ryan Jackson from Colchester, who's played there before. You might have seen him with Cole U, Martin.
Yeah, certainly have.
Yeah, and they've got Dane Oliver, who's very much a target man. And I think with someone like Mikael Mandron going, he's going to give them very much a reference point to go to from deep. So I think that would be really important for them. It'd be very interesting to see how they do. And Steve Evans delivered a very competitive side last year. They're probably one of the best defensive outfits in the division. Yeah,
he's like Marmite, Steve, isn't he? But I think he's like Marmite because he can get a team playing the right way and motivated to run through brick walls for you, and he often gets better results than maybe people give him credit for. Peterborough United obviously are a bit of a local rival. I say local rival, it was, it's clumped together, but they may be losing Ivan Toney. What's your feeling on Peterborough next year, Gabriel?
Well, I can't share too much because I've got some risky content.
Give us a spoiler.
I do think Toney was a fantastic striker. I think I could see him playing in the Premier League in the next 2 or 3 years if he doesn't get a move there instantly. Yeah, for Brentford, have been interested in him. He's pretty much got everything you could ask for a striker at this level. He's a great goal scorer. He's very strong. He's got a lot of mobility as well, and he'll press defences. So I do think that he'll be a loss for Peterborough, but they were a good side all round last year, especially in the second half of the season. And I think they were very unlucky not to have a chance of getting promotion, considering they only finished 3 points off Rotherham, who actually went up automatically. So hopefully that they'll be trying to kind of put right a few wrongs.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, who do you see as a big rival to Town next year? Obviously, Peterborough notoriously difficult in this division. Anybody else you're really sort of thinking, or I'm not quite sure about them?
Charlton.
That's because of history, though, right?
And obviously, absolutely, Gabriel is spot on. They've got so much going on that might affect them. But I don't know. I can't see them being down in this league for very long. I think they'll be down here less time than we are. Wigan, I personally think, might go the same way as Bolton. I'm trying to think of other. Doncaster Rovers had a decent season last year, didn't they? So they're one to watch.
Yeah, certainly.
Certainly. It'd be nice to get them in the playoffs because they're my closest game. So they're actually my other half's family are Donny fans as well. So it could be a fun one for me.
We don't want any playoffs, Amy. We want to go up top 2. I think if it's 1 or 2, just get me up top 2 because playoffs are not good in.
About the playoffs, we'll finish 10th, so we don't have to worry about the playoffs, will we?
No. Well, that is the fear. Daniel says Charlton, Sunderland, Portsmouth, Hull, and Gillingham. His top 6. Obviously, Hull, a team we've not mentioned yet. They were the Town of last year in the Championship. Are we expecting Hull to recover and come again next year? Open question.
I think with them, it's really interesting actually, because you'd probably have to say that they're the most stable of the 3 clubs going down, which is quite ironic in terms of they're not stable at all in terms of the lack of transparency, how their squad's been weakened every year. There's been interference from above, just in the sense that they're able to pay wages and actually on paper they've got a pretty competitive squad. But I just think there's not a good mood around Humberside at the moment, and I do think that could be factor.
Yeah. How about you, Amy?
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. I remember I can't try to think when it was. Last time we played them, I remember being stood outside the ground talking to somebody who was trying to organise a protest, and he came over and asked if I thought the Ipswich fans would support it, and I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. We're not happy with our owner, and we sort of use Hull as one of the examples of how bad it can get, don't we? So they've had so much trouble for so long, and yet they always, I don't know. Again, you just don't know, do you? And I know that's really not the answer that we need, but they'd be one that I'd be worried about, definitely. But I could see them capitulating like Bolton. I think them and Wigan are both going to do a Bolton personally, but you don't know.
No.
It's all such a mess for them, isn't it? There's so many clubs as well who are having these problems. Like Hull used to be the one that you'd think of as sort of like not a one-off, but it wasn't common. But there's so many now where this is a problem, and you and I spoke about it, didn't we, last time I came on with you? I don't think we can blame the pandemic for it. It's not that. It's just that the pandemic escalated it. And nothing's really being done to fix it. I won't start talking about it now, but the wage cap just hasn't gone far enough to actually do anything to help, has it? It's all an absolute shambles, really.
Well, it's up for debate, and obviously the wage cap doesn't necessarily answer where funding comes from, which is one of the major issues behind all of that. Just because they can spend £2.5 million on wages doesn't mean some clubs should spend £2.5 million on wages. Sorry, Amy, I muted your mic by accident. Yeah, so that's the fixture list. Those are the fixtures. If I had to press you both, give me a generalisation, Gabriel. I'm not going to ask you for a specific position. I understand you've got a preview coming out, but give me a generalisation. Is the arrow trending? I'll ask you a different question to ask Amy. Is the arrow trending up for Town? No change, or trending downwards in your opinion?
I would lean towards the no change area. I would be surprised if you finish 11th again next season. I'm not convinced that you're going to be in the mix for promotion.
Fair enough. I've got Elliot the Gamer here. I think we'll finish either 2nd or 6th because I'm disappointed if we don't go up. Likewise, Elliot, absolutely share your opinion there. Gabriel has broken my heart. You probably saw it live on stream there as my face fell when he told me no change. That's not good. Amy, give me some good news to close with.
All we need is another year like the last two, isn't it?
No, we don't.
That might tip me over the edge. So when you were saying about the arrow pointing up, no change or down, for me it's down, because that's the downward spiral that we've been on for years. I don't think we'll get lower than 10. So I'm with Gabriel. I think we're going to be feeling exactly the same as we did that day that we finished 10th this time next year. Well, not this time next year, but I reckon we've got a few years in League One before something.
Oh God! Don't be saying silly things like that.
Fixture list day is supposed to be full of hope. You're supposed to be spending the time planning the next 9 months of your life. It's supposed to be great fun. It's not. This is the first time ever I have felt like I'm not even sure if I want to go this year, because I know I'll get grief for that, but you start to think, what is the point in going through it all again, don't you? But we might be all right. They might shock me. Hey, if I'm pessimistic about it, they can only shock me in a good way.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of fans, you go in waves as you mature and grow through your own life. You grow, your enthusiasm tends to just do that a little bit. And obviously, unless you're supporting Manchester City or somebody, and even this year you'd probably go, oh, next year will be the same. Liverpool just as good. I'm going to go with the chat. I'm going to take the enthusiasm from the chat and grab it and put it into this stream. And I'm going to say, come on, guys. I'm going to shake you both. Top 6. That's where we're going. That's what we're doing. I'm going to say top 4, but I'm not going to say anything other than that. All right.
I think in the clubs that are in the league, I think that's Richards has said it in the comments. I think that's what we as a club should be, at the very least, should be aiming for the playoffs. And if you are, I said if we don't go up, then Lambert's failed and he should be sacked. But obviously he hasn't been. So for me, that is the playoffs is the absolute bare minimum again for me. Yeah. I don't think nothing else is acceptable. We've got to get out of this league.
That is a good way to finish as part of the Lambert fraternity. You know, showing the surname. I can't endorse that sort of notion. I'm sorry, no matter what the situation is, but it's just the way it is, Gabriel. You've got to stick together, you know. But look out for Gabriel Sutton's articles coming out next week. Follow him on Twitter. Gabriel, what is your Twitter handle, just for those that are not going to go into the description?
It's @_football lab with 2 L's rather than 3.
Absolute. Wow. There we go. And he's got some great stuff coming out soon, guys. So go and check Gabriel out. Gabriel, thank you for joining me this morning. Really appreciate it. Martin. Look after yourself. Speak to you soon. Amy, obviously not very positive Amy this morning, but you're doing some fantastic work over in your social media. Do you want to have a quick plug for your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I've taken a bit of a step back from the Ipswich stuff for a little while, because I'm focusing on trying to get my own business going at the moment. So if anyone wants some support with their social media, give me a shout. On Instagram, it's Mum Full of Dreams, or drop me a message on Facebook. It's Amy Downs. And come and have a chat on the Ipswich Town FC forum as well. I'm an admin on there, and we always get some lively conversations going on there. But it's always
you're an admin. I'm an admin. Hey, admin buddies. No, it's good. It's a good page, guys. Full of debate. You won't be called out for having an opinion that might be slightly wrong. I will just quickly finish with this. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe for all your Ipswich Town content, football content. Nick Muller says, Amy, keep the faith. And I think that's a good way to finish. So for guys that are watching, thank you ever so much.